Halloween is coming up, and that means it's time to get spooky. Hi everyone, my name's Diabedor, and for the month of October, I'm going to be making horror-themed Elden Ring builds for your enjoyment. Today, I was inspired by the viciousness of a certain beast that I live with, and so I decided to make the Bloodflame Beast build. If you find this video helpful, please leave a like, share the video, and consider subscribing. It really helps me out. Special thanks to The Story of Us in a Bus for supporting my channel. If you want to see your name honored in the Hall of Insulin along with some other cool perks, then consider joining my channel as a member too. The core of this build is the Savage Claw's Ash of War, which hits several times in a row and does great damage along with having great range and pretty good status buildup. Since it hits multiple times in a row, it's great for proccing our multi-hit buffs, and between the Beast Claw's 45 innate bleed buildup and the bleed buildup added by Bloodflame Blade, it procs bleeds pretty fast. It's a long animation, so either make sure you've got buffs active to make you tanky, or try to use it during big punish windows so you don't get smacked out of it. The Beast Claw's regular moveset is also pretty good. With long leaps, they allow you to easily close in on enemies, and good hit stun lets you basically just spam attacks against most enemies to easily shred them. As usual, I make my builds at level 125 using the Wretch as my starting class. These are just my personal preferences, and you can bring this build up to any level you want and use any class you want to make it. Your final stat spread will look a bit different, but the build will work just fine. If you want to make this build from scratch, then the most optimal class to use would be the Hero. First are the stats. We've got 60 Vigor for maximum survivability, 20 Mind for some FP overhead because we're going to be spamming our Ash of War a lot, and 20 Endurance to medium roll with our equipped gear, plus a bit of stamina overhead. After that, we've got 15 Faith and 10 Arcane for a couple buffs, and then I dumped all the remaining points into Strength to maximize our damage with the Beast Claw. Up next are the weapons. We've got the Beast Claw from the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC as our primary weapon. The Beast Claw's moveset gets great range and does pretty good hit stun, and its innate 45 bleed buildup combined with its fast attack speed make it great for bleed builds. We'll be using the Savage Claw's Ash of War and the Heavy Affinity for maximum damage. We've also got the Dry Leaf Arts, which we're using as a tool to cast the Golden Vow Ash of War for an 11.5% damage buff and 7.5% damage negation buff for 45 seconds. Finally, we've got the Dragon Communion Seal so we can cast our other buffs. Since we're not using any offensive spells in this build, the incant scaling on the seal doesn't really matter, so I went with the Dragon Communion Seal because it's weightless and easy to get. Up next are the Talismans. We're running a bleed build, which makes heavy use of Ash of War spam. So our first two talismans are the Shard of Alexander to increase our Ash of War damage by 15%, and the Lord of Blood's Exaltation to increase all damage we do by 20% for 20 seconds after making an enemy bleed. To complement the Beast Claw's fast moveset, we'll also be using the Rotten or regular Winged Sword insignia and Millicent's Prosthesis for their multi-hit buffs, which provide an increasing damage buff as you hit an enemy multiple times in a short period. Basically, the more you hit the enemy, the more damage you do. Millicent's Prosthesis also gives plus 5 dex, which lets us wield the Beast Claw. Now comes the armor. I want it to look like a vicious beast, a bad boy even, so I went with the Black Wolf mask. And I figured that I might as well go with armor to match it, so I chose Blythe's armor. Not only does it look great, but it also provides more than 50 poise and pretty solid defensive stats, which is nice to have. You could alternatively use the white mask if you want an additional 10% damage buff after proccing a bleed, but it's ugly as hell, which, to be fair, is scary in its own right, and doesn't fit the beast theme, so I didn't use it. Up next are our spells and buffs. We've only got a couple spells for this build. The most important one is Bloodflame Blade, which adds Blood Flame to your weapon for 60 seconds. This includes a bit of fire damage, not much, but nice to have, and more importantly, it makes each attack cost 20 bleed buildup per second for 2 seconds on the enemy, so that's obviously a total of 40 bleed buildup. Combined with the innate bleed buildup and fast attack speed at the Beast Claw, this makes it super easy to proc bleeds on enemies, which chunks their health, and more importantly, activates the Lord of Blood's Exaltation buff to significantly increase our damage output. Our other spells include Bestial Vitality, which regenerates 5 health per second for 120 seconds, and is great for saving flasks while exploring, or having a bit of insurance during boss fights. And Flame Grant Me Strength, which increases all physical and fire damage you do by 20% for 30 seconds. Alternatively, instead of FGMS, you could use Boiled Crab, which increases your physical negation by 20% for 60 seconds, making you significantly tankier. It won't stack with FGMS, so only use one of them, but it's good to keep handy in case you run into a boss whose damage output is too much for you. Finally, in our Wondrous Physic, we've got the standard Opaline Hard tier for plus 15% to all negations for 3 minutes, which makes you tanky as hell when combined with Golden Vow, the armor, and if you use Boiled Crab, especially that. And the Thorny Crack tier for its multi-hit buff, which stacks with the Winged Sword Insignia and Prosthesis. If you want even more damage, then you can swap the Opaline Hard tier out for the Bloodsucking Crack tier, which increases all damage you do by 20% for 3 minutes at the cost of draining 23 health per second. This is a huge damage increase, but I personally don't like the health drain, so I usually don't use it. That's it for this build. I had a lot of fun making it, and I hope you have a lot of fun using it. If you like this video, then please leave a like, share the video, and consider subscribing or joining my channel as a member. My name is Diabetor, and I will catch you later.